descending out of 300,000 feet or 40 miles or that, the craters that you see out of the camera on the lunar lander, as they land, the craters don't get any bigger. They're just the same. And what they're doing is they're using that 21-foot model of the moon that's at Langley, Virginia. And they're just, I have some pictures on thelivingmoon.com that shows NASA carefully working on this 21-foot simulated moon that they used for a lot of the landing and takeoff sequences.
Well, we know that Stanley Kubrick also made this film, for them to basically show them landing on the moon, simply because at least the story according to this mockumentary that's out there is that they didn't have any footage that they could show. I'm assuming what the reason is because they were actually, up there with the help of various ET races, and that they basically, for whatever reason, are not able to show us what's really up there. But you're aware of the Stanley Kubrick story, right?
Right. Yeah, he helped them with the fake stuff, and it's there's a good couple of websites that show exactly how he did it with the 90-degree screen projection, and it's obvious how they did it, how they faked it. So.
Have you ever had a big discussion or a debate with Richard Hoagland on this subject at all?
We debate every once in a while, but when I say debate, usually Richard Hoagland talks all the time. I can't get a word edgewise in. But on one George Norrie show, when I showed him the spaceport, I said, okay, now what does that look like to you? And he said spaceport. Because it's obvious. It's obvious. It
yes.
Has a great big arch, and there's tubes leading from it. And I've got some wonderful pictures of the far side of spaceports and other anomalies on the far side.
Yeah, I remember when we were at your study and, we interviewed you and you were showing us, I mean, you've got a tremendous amount of information there and some fabulous photos.
I've even got better ones than when you were here.
Really? Okay, well.
and the reason I got them is somebody called me just after Project Camelot put out that the thing on me, and he called me from Florida, and he said, you don't know me, but my name is Mr. X. He told me his real name, and he said, when I lived in New Orleans, my wife and I, one of the things we used to love to do was go to auctions at houses where the occupants were deceased and they were just getting rid of stuff. And there was boxes that you'd pay, $25 or $30, not knowing what was in there. So he had bought this box in which there was rolled up about 25 photos. And he didn't know what they were, but later he took them out and he looked at them, and they were all original lunar orbiter photographs, 16 by 20 in format. Wow. And unfortunately, several of them had already been airbrushed, and they got the official NASA stamp on the back of the photos, so that we know that they're official photos. But there were one or two that weren't airbrushed. And there was one that was airbrushed a little bit, but it shows the town, and it's let me see, look across the room. It's Lunar Orbiter 3123H, and it's a fantastic photo, never published by NASA. It's of an area at 125 miles northwest of Copernicus. And for somebody who's very familiar with photo interpretation, I can see the towns, the buildings, the factories, everything. And all this is on the near side. Now, the way they hide stuff on the near side is with holographic images. For instance, Plato up on the northern part of the moon looks flat and black. That's just a hologram. And but if you look at the edges real carefully, you can see that it actually slopes down. And there's trees, shrubbery, bushes, everything like that slopes down this slope, but it's generally covered by a black area. The other day, a friend of mine just happened to be up at 5:00 in the morning and was looking at Endymion on the moon, which is near the top of the moon, and got some fantastic pictures of Endymion. Now, we've always been intrigued by Endymion because there's several towers to the southeast of the crater, and these towers have been on every photograph taken of the moon, but they've been airbrushed out with either thick black lines or in some other manner. But for some reason, that morning, the hologram projector or whatever it is they used to hide that was turned off. And he sat there and he drew what he saw. And that's on thelivingmoon.com, but it's fantastic. There's a couple of cranes there. There's a row of buildings. There's some gigantic spheres, and it's really a fantastic picture. As a matter of fact, when he called me that morning, he said, "John, you're never going to believe what I saw." And I said, "Here, come to Vegas." This guy lives in San Francisco. I said, let's do this properly. So he came here. We enlarged a picture of Endymion, and then he drew what he saw. And
fabulous!
I grilled him on what he saw, and we made a very, very good photo of it. And then I've been passing that around on various websites.
Well, that's interesting. And you're mentioning trees, and I think you have a very excellent sort of study of trees that you show on the Living Moon in regard to Mars. And I'm wondering if you can talk about that a little bit, because you obviously also have quite a bit of information about Mars, and I'm curious about your take on that.
No, I really don't. I'm not interested in Mars for this reason, is because the only pictures that were worth anything were the very first ones of Mars, and I forget the spacecraft. What was it? Mars Orbiter, the first one. I forget. Had the
well, there's the Mars Orbiter, I guess. And that you've got. I'm just looking at your website here, because maybe it's not you that put them up. Then it's one of the people you work with.
Yeah, Ron put those up. But what I'm saying is every single picture after that is faked. It's either of, they've got a place up in Canada and a place in Antarctica that they use to photograph pictures that are passed off as pictures from Mars. Mars has so many people and cities and things going on there, there would be no way for a camera to land and take pictures without spotting something. So they don't use Mars. Or if they do, they certainly don't release it to the public. They use this place in Canada or Antarctica to pass off those photos.
Well, who do you think is in charge up there? Because we've had a lot of spacecraft malfunction and actually, basically get shot down.
That got shot down?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or
I don't know who's in charge up there. Every planet has their own deal. Every planet in our solar system has people similar to us, some that are not as similar as the others, but every planet is inhabited, and that includes Jupiter, Neptune, Mars, Venus, Pluto, Mercury, all those. And we're fed the lie that the distance from the sun is what creates the heat on the surface of the planet. And of course it's not. The sun is an electromagnetic sphere. It has no fusion reaction going up there. There's no heat as such coming from the sun. It's an electromagnetic wave. And what controls the heat on a planet